All right. Let me make sure I'm live. Looks like I'm live. All right, y'all. Biblical DNA here. Let me see. Sounds good. Sounds good. Check 1, 2, 3. Citing Y-STR predictors and PopAffiliator on the ancient Egyptian royal mummies. All right. So this is a very important video. So when the NORAD sample back in July got published, this book also got published. It's the Oxford Handbook of Archaeology and Language. And in this book, there's a chapter, Afro-Asian Archaeogenetic Linguistics. So Afro-Asian Archaeolinguistics, all right? And you see the authors, Christopher Earhart, David Schoenberg, Stephen Brandt, and Shimaka O.Y. Keita, also known as Soy Keita. Right? There's another book that was just recently published also. General History of Africa 9. General History of Africa Revisited. All right. Let's go ahead and get into this. So, for those that want access to this book, unfortunately, it's not available. You're going to be spending a pretty dollar on this. I think I saw the average rate going for like $200. So if you want to be a big spender and spend some money, good luck with spending $200. But fortunately for me, I was able to bypass that, get what I wanted in the book. When I contacted the author, not going to say which author it was, but they told me to go through my university, but the university doesn't have the book. But other professors or other researchers in this same book, not this chapter, the same book though, they provided the chapter. They didn't ask me any questions. They were just like, here you go. They provided the chapter, and I said, thank you very much. Thank you. You're so great. You're so kind. Thank you. But one of these authors, again, I'm not going to say the name, they didn't provide it. So, but like I said, I'm able to get it. And just so we're clear, I am protected. Copyright. So go ahead and it's in the description. Fair use. Section 107 of the Copyright Act provides the statutory framework for determining whether something is a fair use and identifies certain types of uses such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. So for those that need to target me or report me or something like that, this is fair use. I have the ability to use this. So I don't want to see I was reported for misinterpreting what Soy Keita says in this. And you better hold tight, because this right here, I'm going to drop a lot of bombs on this article after, I did the right way by emailing Dr. Gad. And for those that have actually followed along to my channel, I also emailed Zahi Hawass. So I did both. And before, people ask me, why did you email Zahi Hawass? Why didn't you just email somebody like that's an actual molecular geneticist or biologist in the research? And I did. I emailed pretty much everybody that was responsible for revisiting the Haram, the Hawass et al. 2012. I pretty much emailed all the professor or the researchers that were their email was available, that I was able to obtain. So I did. But let's go ahead and get into this. So this is on page 567. Let's scroll down here. I'm not trying to read all of this. Let's start right here. All right. So it says ancient DNA findings of Y from Egypt include Shahnamans et al. 2017, 1E haplogroup M35-78, and 2J-M89 were found. Pharaoh Ramses III carried the E1B1A M2 haplogroup. Hawass et al. 2012, the most common in tropical Africa. 3 other Egyptian kings from the 18th dynasty carried the M89 defined R1b that was not further characterized, and other mummies had the E haplogroup. Gad et al. 2021, personal communication. It is interesting to consider if these lineages came directly to the Nile Valley from Asia, a settlement in Egypt, or via the Sahara, as their short tandem repeat STR autosomal background in some analyses indicates broader trans-Saharan connections. See Gordon et al. 2019-2020. Now, I want to stop it right there and give a breakdown of what I just read. He read through that Ramses III carried E1B1A, but when it comes to the other 3 18th dynasty kings, they basically they were not further characterized, and other mummies had carried, like they carried E haplogroup. What is he talking about? What is he saying right here? What is this? Does Y-STR haplogroup predictor determine SNPs? Do they determine which freaking branch, like what down subclade of E or R1b or any of the other haplogroups? No, they don't. So what is he talking about? Soy Keita has never gone on these haplogroup predictors. I don't think he has ever had. He's never gone on these websites himself and investigated these, did some research. I don't think so. Because if he actually went on with at this haplogroup predictor, he would know they don't do stuff like that. It's R1b, R1a. And a few other European haplogroups and East Asian haplogroups. It's missing what haplogroups though? Haplogroup A and haplogroup B. And also I think it's a few more that is missing too. But anyways, I mean, how are you missing one of the most important haplogroups A from Africa, and you're determining a North African Y-DNA using STRs, short tandem repeats? So it doesn't make any sense for him to sit there and say, well, Ramses III belonged to E1B1A when it's actually predicted to belong to E1B1A. Him and his supposedly son Pentaware, according to Revisiting the Haram, Hawass et al. 2012, when we see, from what I gathered, that the STRs are just random, pretty much all made up, which, you know, we'll see what the new study of the Egyptian Genome Project determines using NGS and whole genome sequencing. We'll see. We'll see who was right this whole time. And let's see if these scholars actually correct their previous work and say, hey, you know, this is what we had back in the day, but this is the standard now. It's not how it was before, because we have updated bioinformatics that allows us to gather everything that's on the table and lay it out and say, hey, this is contaminated or this isn't contaminated. This is legitimate ancient DNA that can be sequenced properly, and there's no interference from people doing the embalming or people in the past, or any time in the past, touching the DNA and contaminating the DNA. But the problem is, using STRs, you're going to have that problem. But you don't see nowhere in this Soy Keita ever bringing this up. He never says that, ever. He never talks about it. But he goes into another, look at this, and other mummies, look at this, other mummies had the E haplogroup. What other mummies is he talking about? He's saying personal communication. What other mummies? What other mummies is he talking about? It's only Ramses III, and the whole concept of the research was to see if the other mummy was his son Pentawere. So what other mummies is he talking about? I have no idea. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. All right. Back at it. All right. I'm back on. So let's go and continue reading this. All right. If the lineage was RV-88, which we know he spelled that wrong, it's R-V88. This might be consistent with peopling of the Nile Valley from the Sahara after the valley population hiatus. See Hassan 1988, Honegger and Williams 2015. The association of Paleolithic Asian lineage with an affiliation that is tropical African is an example of the admixture found in some populations in the Nile Valley. This kind of profile has analogs in various populations and should not be surprising. Other 18th dynasty lineages in the Amarna period were found to be E1B1A. What is he talking about? Is he just making this shit up? Like, what is he talking about? Other 18 dynasty lineages were found to be E1B1A? When did Gad ever state that? Whoa, hold up. When did Gad ever state that other 18 dynasty? This guy doesn't make any sense, y'all. This is Keita. This is Keita. I'm exposing him. Remember, Ankh? I hope Ankh, make sure you share this with Ankh. I'm exposing him. Biblical DNA. Who is this biblical guy? I'm exposing your guy. I'm exposing Soy Keita. I'm that dude. I'm exposing him. This is how good I am at this. That's why I told you should have asked Brother Garfield. He knows I'm this good. I'm this dude. I can see this. I'm not stupid like the rest of the people. I'm not dumb. I'm not putting up with Keita's stuff. What he just wrote here is complete nonsense and lies. There was no E1B1A found in ancient Egypt in the 18th dynasty. He just made that up. He lied. And Gad never wrote that. The only two samples that are predicted with E1B1A are Ramses III and his son, Pentawere, which we already know it's going through the whole Egyptian genome process, genome project with next generation sequencing and whole genome sequencing. We already know this. This is the emails. I was the first one to show the email, to show this was going to be coming out before Gad published the paper last year with the Egypt Genome Project. I was the first one. It was me. I'm the one that showed the emails and everything. He let me, like, my emails proved that was going to be taking place before we knew about it. I'm just saying, but where did he just make this up? Other lineages, other mummies. Other mummies had the E haplogroup. And it's crazy. What other mummies is he talking about? What 18th dynasty lineages is he talking about with E1B1A? Can't make it up. All right. Let's get to the next one, shall we? I'm killing it so far. Hey, you gotta listen. If you're not a big fan of me, you gotta just tip your hat, but like, wow. Biblical DNA just did the damn thing. He just exposed Keita. And you're right, because I'm going to keep on going at it. All right, this is the next one. The genealogical connections of Africa's regions. The Y chromosome evidence. Shamaka Y Keita. All right. 2 pages of interest here. Pages 526 and 730. Right? Let's go ahead and get into this one. All right. Breaks down. Here we go. It's right here. Most living populations have multiple lineages, either mixtures of E sublineages or mixtures of E and other different haplogroup lineages, or both. A good example of this is in Africa. This in Africa is Egypt, where a great diversity of lineages was found in some reviews. Keita, 2005. Okay. In this regard, the genetic profile of Ramses III is also of interest. One can see in Pharaoh Ramses III, 20th dynasty. Hold up, y'all. I thought he said it was 18th dynasty. Let's go back up to it. I thought it was 18th dynasty up here. Other 18th dynasty lineages were E1B1A. Got out to all 2020. But now it's 20th dynasty, so he got it right up there, but he got it wrong down. He got it wrong up there, but he got it wrong right here. What happened, y'all? So he knew that it was 20th dynasty, but earlier he said it was 18th dynasty. I don't know. A local variant. Give me 1 second. Physiognomy. Which? So a person's facial features or expression, especially when regarded as indicative of character or ethnic group, right? That may represent a desert adaptation associated with the E1B1A Y lineage. Hawass et al. 2012. Common in infra-Saharan regions. Why doesn't he just say sub-Saharan regions? Like that's a bad word, infra-Saharan? It's crazy. Like, they feel a certain type of way about anything below the Sahara. They have to come up with words like infra-Saharan region. And autosomal background also associated with tropical African regions and others based on a narrow set of markers marked in 2013. This is not surprising in the complex place that is Egypt. First of all, everything you just wrote there is surprising to me because last time I checked, none of that Hawass et al. 2012 did it ever break down the autosomal components of Ramses III. It never broke down that he was associated with this population, this population. He had admixture components of this, that, and the other. It never did any of that. It never did any of this, what he's associating it with. It never did any of that. And the emails, I got proof of that. And it was never confirmed. It was never it was never supposed to be done like that. It was never supposed to, the autosomal STRs were never supposed to be used that way. Keep following. I got y'all. The current distribution of older and younger Y lineages indicates that at one time, populations in Africa migrated in varying directions and came to overlap in many regions. It has to be remembered, based on their age, that in some sense, haplogroups A and B are earlier modern human haplogroups whose existence has been primarily preserved in Africa and are now called African. I am so happy he just brought that up, y'all. You know why? I'm so happy that he just brought this up. He brought that up. What is this, y'all? Which haplogroups are missing right here? Let's go back to it. Haplogroups A and B are earlier modern human haplogroups whose existence has been primarily preserved in Africa and are now called African. Except for something, Keita. What is this haplogroup predictor missing? It's missing those right here, haplogroups A and B, the so-called African haplogroups, right? You just put it right there. They've been primarily preserved in Africa and are now called African. So haplogroups African and B African haplogroups are missing right here. I'm that guy. But guess where they're not missing at? They're not missing here. They're not missing on NevGen. NevGen has haplogroups A and B, but we Athes do not. Ain't that something? Let's continue. These haplogroups are found in high frequency in groups that include peoples who still employ hunting and gathering as part of their subsistence strategies in infra-Saharan regions, as well as some others. The E haplogroup, which more likely than not originated in tropical Eastern Africa, came to make up the plurality or majority of existing lineages in the four quadrants of Africa, statistically removing the impact of known migrations into Africa and will raise the frequencies even higher. These migrations would include those from eras associated with the card what am I talking about? Okay, give me a second. Cardassian. Give me a damn. Why can't I pronounce this word right now? The people of North Africa. It's killing me. There we go. Carthaginian. I would say Carthaginians, Greco-Romans. All right, and so this is page 730. Royal mummies from the 18th and 20th dynasty around 1300 BCE. In order to determine the relationship between several royal mummies from the New Kingdom, Saya, Yoya, Tutankhamun, or is that supposed to be Tutankhamun or no? Akhenaten, Amenhotep III, Tutankhamun, and Ramses III. The team led by Posh, Zinc, and Hawass used 8 of the 13 genetic markers, STR, from the combined DNA index system CODI, used by the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, in forensic analysis. In addition to paternal markers, Hawass et al. 2010-2012, the paternal haplotype E1B1A found in Ramses III, Hawass et al. 2012, is widespread in modern-day sub-Saharan Africa. Trembante et al. 2011, and particularly among speakers of Bantu lineage or languages, Campbell et al. 2014. These data reinforce the idea of an ancient sub-Saharan foothold in North Africa, as suggested by meta-analysis of both paternal Keita 2006 and maternal markers Friggy et al. 2010. All right. So wait a minute now. He said that since Ramses III is predicted, y'all, predicted with E1B1A that modern day sub-Saharan Africa, particularly among speakers of Bantu languages, they had a ancient sub-Saharan foothold in North Africa. Therefore, that's why Ramses III was predicted with E1B1A, because there was ancient mummies that were in Egypt with E1B1A. Y'all, this is nuts. This is completely nuts. I want to show something just so I'm that dude. Like, I can be that mean of a person, right? And I know for those that have been following me for a long time, they already know about this, right? This isn't new to them. They already know about this. They know about the Ramses III and the NevGen and the fact that it doesn't predict E1B1A and everything. And if that's not your interest, I mean, you can go ahead and just skip this video, because I'm pretty much just filleting him this whole time regarding those Y-STRs, because there's no African Americans or Bantu speakers in sub-Saharan Africa that really carries these Y-STRs. They're random. And even NevGen, the creators of NevGen calculator, they stated that. They stated that those samples were random. And I'm just gonna show this again just for those that never used NevGen. And so these are the family tree DNA order of Ramesses III and Pentawar. These are the big Y, or the Y111 family tree DNA order for Ramses III. And this is the prediction. Unsupported subclade. Warning, the values of fitness are too small. There is probably an error in order of the STRs, right? And as somebody that's brand new to this, having a DYS 393 of 8, which is the case, is less than 9. It's actually 8 though, but it's very rare to have. But the association with 21 with DIYS 390 is really associated with E1B1A. Not all the time. They don't have to just carry 21, but it's really known that most people that belong to E1B1A has 21. Now, is E1B1A the only haplogroup that can carry DYS 390 with 21 repeats or markers? No. The answer is no. There's other haplogroups such as JP58 and G and a few other ones. I think it's I or something like that. They also can have DYS 390 of 21 repeats. I even showed, I think it was an EV22 or EV12 that had a DYS 390 of 21 repeats. But this haplogroup predictor couldn't determine that. And as I've shown before that it can't determine that, I'm going to do it again for y'all. So what you want to do is take the numbers and remove the dashes. Got to just be spaces, right? Spaces. Make sure this is on Mediterranean, because if you actually read the two in common paper, that's what they use. They use Mediterranean or equal priors. But I'm going to do Mediterranean first, since that's where Egypt sits on the Mediterranean Sea. But you see the prediction probability is 99, right, for E1B1A. There's no question about that. Fitness score is a 0. Goose eggs all the way down. Even goose eggs for the African haplogroups that are not even on there, such as haplogroup A and B. But let's do equal priors. You can see the same thing, right? Let's switch it back to Mediterranean. But this is what we're going to do, y'all. We're going to switch 390 from 21 to 23. Look at this. What are the odds? He magically was predicted to be E1B1B. Oh, 22, same thing. What about 24? Look at that, y'all. What are the odds? Unbelievable. So because of one repeat of DYS390, somehow this haplogroup predictor determined that he could only belong to E1B1A. There's no way he could belong to another haplogroup, which isn't the case. Same thing with DYS393. Him carrying 8 is very rare. It is normally, it's usually like 12 or 13 or something like that. But look at that. Or 14. But look at that though. What are the odds? It would come to fitness score 1 using Whit-Atte's haplogroup predictor. Look at that. But when you go back to DYS390 with 21 repeats, it goes back to the probability of 98% and fitness score of 1 for E1B1A. So what does Whit-Atte's haplogroup predictor determine? It's flawed. It's flawed and outdated. It's as simple as that. And you should not be relying on this with ancient DNA without doing SNP testing. But I'm going to bring that up. Too easy. All right, let's get back into this. So therefore, the sub-Saharan genetic contribution preceded the trans-Saharan slave trade, often used to justify the sub-Saharan contributions in North Africa. No, it's not. That's not the only reasoning to justify sub-Saharan contribution in North Africa. The Romans brought a lot of sub-Saharan African flow genetically into Northeast Africa, into the Mediterranean. They just found mummies, or not mummies, but ancient skeletons or something, grave sites in Israel during the Roman period. And they're predicted to come from like East Africa, from like Ethiopia or something like that. And I can't wait till that paper comes out. I mean, I don't know what he's talking about. Who said that sub-Saharan genetic contribution preceded, like whoever said that it was only limited to a trans-Saharan slave trade, or to the, like, I don't know what he's talking about. Like, whoever stated this. And I mean, at least he used sub-Saharan African or sub-Saharan contribution in North, at least he used sub-Saharan right there. But whoever said that that's the only way that sub-Saharan genetic contribution entered into Northeast Africa? He's saying that himself. We know that the Romans had people that from East Africa and below modern day Sudan come into Northeast Africa, come into North Africa, come into through the Levant, go all the way into Italy. So I don't know what he's talking about. Like, that's something that he thinks. I don't know. He should cite, if he wanted to prove a point right there, he should have cited like old pseudoscience, like old anthropologists that believe that sub-Saharan Africans, you know, ancestry or lineages never came to Egypt prior to the trans-Saharan slave trade. But I would say, yes, it's been proven that in 2017 with Schollemann et al., that there was an influx of sub-Saharan genetic admixture that entered into Egypt post-Roman period. But I believe it was during the Roman period, then post also. So it was a contribution of like maybe middle to late Roman periods. I don't know, but it was around the Roman period when a sub-Saharan African admixture came into Egypt for sure, and more than likely before that. But I don't know. I don't get his point there at all. Maybe you do in the comment section. So please let me know. Please let me know if you know what he's talking about, because I have no earthly idea. We have estimated the ethnicity of the Amarna mummies using STR with PopAffiliator 1 software, and found that they had strong affinities with current sub-Saharan populations, 41% to 93.9% for sub-Saharan Africa, compared to 4.6% to 41% for Eurasia and 0.3% to 16% for Asia. Gordon, 2018. Oh man, I gotta stop it right there, y'all. Gotta stop it right there. Yeah, I gotta stop it right there. I think that was pretty much. No, let me go ahead and finish this because I might as well just cut it. L. Martin, whose company DNA Tribes specializes in genetic genealogy, has gone further when analyzing the genetic markers of the Amarna mummies by using their algorithm in large database of STRs from ethnic groups. Martin and Valatis 2008. According to Martin, the majority of the Marna mummies have strong genetic affinities with populations from the Great Lakes region, Central and Southern Africa, and some have shown affinities with people from the Near East and West Africa. Martin 2012 and 2013. This is not exclusive, as only 18 of 13 CODIS markers were used. Gordon 2013. All right, let's go ahead and get into this, y'all. So these are the emails that I exchanged with Dr. Yehe Gad, or Dr. Yehe Zachary Gad. So I basically explained to him the whole process of how those Y-STRs ran through NevGen pretty much do not predict E1B1A. But if you chose R1B, they predict 100%. Even though the creators of NevGen even said, no, that's not how it's supposed to be used, and that's just an error. But the thing is, with Athi's haplogroup predictor, it doesn't predict errors. You know, it's flawed. It's outdated. But in case you haven't heard these emails, here they go. Dear my name, I marked that out. Thank you for your email. The work that you refer to, BMJ Haram conspiracy article, has been carried out more than 10 years ago, where we use targeted STR analysis for kinship analysis. The field has moved past this now and is setting NGS as a standard platform for analysis of ancient DNA and giving ample information with more coverage on sequence variations that can be utilized for more definitive genotype designation. We have recently procured an NGS platform in our lab, and we have been starting to study new mummies as well as revisiting the old ones too. Also, in 2010 and 2011, the information about the autosomal genotyping in various populations was rather scarce, and he attached the article BNJ, which I already had, but you know, he was just trying to be nice, which I respect that. So these are further emails I had with him. I think this was like a year later or something like that. I don't recall. But he says, "Dear colleague, thanks for your email. The analysis was done in 2011, 2012, before the article publication in 2012. The quoted haplogroup destination in later articles was related to the early referenced article of 2012. Y'all hear that? So it was not confirmed like Keita, Soy Keita says. It was just they were just citing the previous research. They never confirmed it. They never went on to another haplogroup predictor like NevGen or anything like that to confirm it. They didn't take any SNPs and determine, yes, he does belong to E1B1A. No, it's predicted, and it's based off the 2012 article, which, guess what, y'all? Now our lab has moved to the NGS analysis, and instead of the targeted analysis that was the only method available in the pre-NGS era, and we are revisiting the previously studied mummies. He said it right here, confirmed it right here. Again, this is a follow-up email that he responded to me with. I have read the article that you were referring to in FSI Jeanette 2017. The main point from our previous work that was done and published in 2012 was to assess the kinship between the studied pair, and we proved it using the autosomal and Y-chromosome STR profile. The haplogroup designation is a byproduct which we just referred to in view of completion then. But it is understandable that the markers for genotyping in various ethnicities over a wide span of time needs more detailed and integrative analysis like the WGS and GS analysis. Thanks. Oh man, this is too easy, y'all. Too easy. Too easy. All right, for you big AI fans, right? I ran this through AI just so I can get feedback to see if I'm telling the truth or if I'm not being honest. I'm being disingenuous. But it looks like AI agrees with me. Says the user is correct that other prediction tools such as NetGen do not consistently predict E1B1A for Ramses III, suggesting potential issues with data quality. Some STR values might be random wrong, or the limitations of predicting haplogroups from a limited set of STR markers. Some geneticists and commentators note that while E1B1A was predicted haplogroup, further SNP testing would be needed for definitive confirmation, as STR predictors have limitations, and they also could be wrong. Other pharaohs from the earlier 18th dynasties, such as Tutankhamun and Amenhotep III, were found to belong to haplogroup R1b, which is a Eurasian lineage, highlighting the genetic diversity within ancient Egypt's elite over time. Now, see, those Y-STRs, which I already had, that's the ones I had on NevGen. These are the STRs or the Y-STRs for Akhenaten, right? And if you run these, you get no problem. They go straight through. It says, warning, the values of fitness are too small. There is probably an error in the order of STRs, but let me go ahead and refresh this real quick. I think that was based off of the Ramses III. Yeah, so these ones are correct. Yes, I agree there could be more Y-STRs, but I think regardless of the situation, once they do the SNP testing and the NGS and the whole Egypt, the Egypt Genome Project, that part of the ancient DNA of the 200 mummies is completed, I think we're gonna actually have the SNP for Tutankhamun, and hopefully for Ramses III and the rest of the mummies, the royal mummies, right? So with this one, it says that the probability is 99.98% with a fitness of 4271. I mean, this is legit. I mean, compared to what we have for Ramses III, yeah, this is more legit, and it looks good. Like everything is down aligned, so it definitely looks better than what we have for Ramses III. But hey, all right. Now this part. In summary, the E1B1A haplogroup for Ramses III is widely cited for the specific 2012 and 2021 reconfirmation, but it was never reconfirmation. And that's what I pretty much proved up here with these emails. It was never reconfirmed. They pretty much just cited the 2012 previous work. They cited previous work. That's all they did. It was never confirmed that he belongs to E1B1A. Why didn't Keita do this? He's a scholar and he's older than me. He's very older than me. So he's like maybe got like 40 years over me. Why didn't he do this? Like, what's so like I was able to do it, but he couldn't? It doesn't make any sense, especially if he's old school and he knows that you have to communicate with other scholars. But I knew that. I mean, hell, I'm just saying, which relied on the wit at these predictor, but some experts caution that these are predictions from limited data, not results from the comprehensive SNP testing, which I agree. It's definitely, I think the NGS is going to make a big difference, and I don't think there's going to be any excuses. And I really believe that they should have the samples published for everybody to be able to use. All right, so PopAffiliator, PopAffiliator 2 is designed for individual population affiliation of modern population in a forensic context. It is not specifically designed or optimized for the analysis of ancient DNA. Well, that was a dagger into freaking Keita and Gordon. I'm just saying, like, that pretty much shatters their hopes and dreams of the sub-Saharan connection of ancient Egypt. All right, key points about PopAffiliator. Target populations, it categorizes individuals into three major modern population groups: Eurasian, East Asian, and Sub-Saharan African. Data type, it uses short tandem repeat, STR genotype profiles, which are standard in modern forensic science. Purpose, its primary application is in forensic genetics, such as helping to identify a missing person by providing an initial broad geographic population affiliation. Limitations for ancient DNA. Ancient DNA analysis presents unique challenges, including DNA degradation, fragmentation, and modern contamination, which require specialized software and methods not found in standard forensic tools like PopAffiliator. So when they're doing those STR, when they're getting those STRs, they cannot determine if it is contamination or anything else, right? And I got proof of that. So keep watching, y'all. I'm going to finish this video very strong by showing you the academic, the research, what Keita should have been doing instead of what he did in his what he did. So let me see something real quick. I want to make sure this is still looking good. All right, still looks good. All right, and for those that actually watched and followed along this whole video, thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe, and give me a big shout out. But like, yeah, biblical DNA, you stuck it too, Soy Keita, and you're holding him accountable for all the nonsense that he's publishing. Hey, what can I do? I'm just an average Joe, just trying to make sure everybody's squared. All right, PopAffiliator 2 was a software tool used in genetic genealogy and population genetics for estimating an individual's population assignments or biogeographical ancestry based on their DNA profile, typically from SNP data, single nucleotide polymorphisms. Users could input genetic data such as results from direct to consumer genetic testing services like 23andMe to determine their likely ancestral regions, e.g. Asia, Eurasia, Sub-Saharan Africa. Regarding the use of ancient DNA STR, short tandem repeat markers in PopAffiliator 2. PopAffiliator 2 primarily used SNPs or SNPs for its population assignment calculations. STRs are generally not suitable for use in this specific type of population affiliation software designed around large SNP datasets. While STRs are widely used in traditional forensic casework for individual identification due to their high variability and prevalence in existing databases, SNPs have been shown to be more effective for generating DNA profiles from highly degraded remains, including ancient DNA, and for more distant relationship predictions, investigative genetic genealogy. Therefore, ancient DNA STR data would likely not be compatible or effective for use in the PopAffiliator 2 software, which relied on specific SNP markers and reference populations for biogeographical predictions. Boom! Go ahead and drop the bomb on that one. Boom! All right, and so that's the Ramses III, which I already showed. It's unsupported subclade. That's what I got on top is E1B1B with the probability of 0, fitness 1.89, fitness 0.04. You see E1B1A coming with a 0 probability, fitness 1.35. EV22 probability is 0, fitness 0.92. But if you switched it to I think it's E S&P is SNPs of E or something like that, and you put like 96 M96 or whatever it is, I think it predicts EV22, one of them. But regardless, you can see that it's a 0 unsupported subclade. Warning, the values of fitness are too small. There is probably an error in the order of the STR, right? And it's not on me. Yeah, I'm not the problem. It's definitely these right here. These repeats right here, these Y-STRs, these short tandem repeats, they're the problem. Something's wrong with those. Not me, not the user. It's not a user error. It's whoever did these Y-STRs, they're wrong. Whoever analyzed those, these are wrong. There's something wrong with those. And the if you click on this, which is in the description box, my thoughts about supposed haplotype of Ramses III and his prediction, April 2023. He pretty much breaks down the whole thing. So he even made pseudocode and all that stuff. Pseudo Y-STRs. So just to prove his point. All right, y'all. Now here is the research, right? All right. Ancient DNA analysis. Often samples have high levels of degradation and are prone to contamination by other DNA sources. Following purification and concentration steps, aDNA is then constructed into an NGS library and sequence. In addition to these core steps, there are also optional steps that can be performed at various stages and to achieve desired effects, such as complete or partial removal of post-mortem damage prior to library construction, or the enrichment of specific genetic targets prior to sequencing. All right, let me see if I can fit this better. That looks better. All right, review computational analysis of human skeletal remains in ancient DNA and forensic genetics. And please, y'all, please go read these articles. Please go read more. I'm just giving you some, some quotes. I just want to cite some articles, some scientific articles that stuck out to me that were important for this video. Just please go read these articles, especially if your name is Soy Keita. Please go do that. Please. Despite all these challenges, in the last decade, the publication of more than 10,000 genome-wide and whole genome data from ancient humans has made it possible to learn more about human evolutionary history and genetics, even in areas that are known to be challenging for DNA preservations due to high ambient temperatures and humidity. NGS-based methodologies have expanded the information that can be gained from degraded DNA samples beyond the traditional forensic DNA profile standard of short tandem repeats. Oh no, let me read that again. NGS-based methodologies have expanded the information that can be gained from degraded DNA samples beyond the traditional forensic DNA profile standard of short tandem repeat. STRs. Although STRs are unlikely to be replaced for routine forensic casework due to their prevalence in existing databases and the ease of generating STR profiles, NGS analysis of SNPs has gained traction. SNPs have been shown to be more effective for generating DNA profiles from degraded remains, including enabling the identification of individuals through more distant relatives, investigative genetic genealogy, IgG, instead of via first generation relatives or or direct match. And so that whole direct match or first generation, that was more like STR, that was profiling. So the FBI used STRs, autosomal STRs, to be able to identify like crimes and stuff like that by profiling, genetically profiling. And so when people were using these PopAffiliators, that's what that was for. It wasn't for ancient DNA. So whatever you're gaining, whatever you're seeing on that, it wasn't meant for that. Those microsatellites were not meant for that. Those STR, autosomal STRs, were not meant for that. So I don't know. Let's continue. This is the same article, biological relatedness. The identification of relatives is of interest in both forensic and ancient DNA studies and forensic human identification casework. And in the absence of a direct match in available databases, kinship analysis with STRs, familia researching has been used to identify potential perpetrators of violent crimes, perpetrators, yeah, of violent crimes, unknown remains, or determine paternity. False negative and false positive rates of this analysis have been evaluated and found to be impacted by likelihood ratio cutoff use, the type of relationship in question, and the individual's genetic ancestors. One of the commonly used software for this analysis, Familias, uses allele sharing between genetic relatives that are identical by descent, IBD, to identify first to second degree relatives. Same article, identifying contamination. Contamination is the context of genetic analysis of an individual's skeletal remains, refers to the presence of any DNA that is not from that individual. See, you can't do that with with the STR testing that they did. You couldn't do that with them. The presence of contamination is a concern for both forensic and ancient DNA analyses, and each field has developed different techniques for monitoring its presence. Forensic laboratories maintain databases of DNA profiles from potential contamination sources. Individuals are involved in casework, have been in the laboratory, etc., and previous casework, which can be compared to genotype casework samples. Which, by the way, they did have profiles, the Y-STRs of the individual that had contact with the samples. And it is interesting to note with Ramses the third. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Let me see something real quick. Just hold tight, hold your horses. I want to see something real quick. See if I can pull this up on Chrome so I don't have to close this out. There we go, y'all. So they did have the person or the reference mummy, something with distinct Y-STRs, or it's down here with DNA controls. So I'm assuming that's what they did. Obviously, DNA controls. That's what it looks like. But what's interesting is that you don't see any other E1B1As besides the Ramses III and unknown man E. And also, I would like to say that the DYS390 24 is found in the 18th dynasty mummies of Amenhotep III, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, Yoya. So it didn't have a DYS390, it looks like. So yeah, so that's what it's pretty much talking about. Okay. All right, internal validation studies are used to set coverage thresholds for calling consensus alleles and determining that a profile is predominantly from a single individual. This is also part of what drives the high coverage thresholds in forensic analysis. Data that are determined to represent multiple individuals are excluded from downstream analysis. Finally, in some forensic laboratories, when possible, at least two skeletal elements or bone powder aliquots per individual are processed, and the DNA profiles between these extracts are required to match. This independent replication of results also serves as a means to check for concordance between replicates and to monitor for sample switches that may have occurred during batch downstream processing. Both forensic and ancient DNA or aDNA fields carry contamination controls such as no template controls, also known as negative controls, and reagent blanks containing all reagents used in the experiment minus the sample from DNA extraction and library preparation steps through to sequencing to identify potential contamination from reagents or sampling in the laboratory. All right, this is a paper, Read V2, Advanced and User-Friendly Detection of Biological Relatedness in Archaeogenomics. This development, let me see how this looks real quick. Okay, there we go. This development has been facilitated by advances in both ancient DNA wet lab procedures and specifically designed bioinformatics methods, as the specific properties of ancient DNA do not allow the application of most approaches used with modern DNA. Studies of biological relatedness in prehistoric groups are now reaching up to 100 and more individuals from the same site, highlighting the need for further development of methods to produce optimized and efficient tools in this area. All right. Is ancient ancestry informative markers for identifying fine-scale ancient population structure in Eurasians. Whole genome sequencing and single nucleotide polymorphism, SP, SNP. Microarrays are the two leading approaches to ancient DNA sequencing. Although the former is preferable as it provides more data, by late 2017, only a quarter of the 1,100 sequenced ancient genomes were whole genomes. The vast majority of these genomes, 762, were captured by SNP microarrays, mainly the human origins, and Illumina 610 quad arrays, neither of which were designed for ancient humans, making it particularly challenging to identify and control for ancient population structure. Further, microarrays dedicated to ancient DNA will thereby need a reliable set of polymorphic markers that can be used to differentiate ancient populations whose population structure was shown to vary over time. See, they didn't have this back in 2012. So this paper right here is 2018. And Ivran Hayek actually wrote something that was worthwhile, right? So people like Ivran Hayek, you know, they can come up with pseudoscience, but then they can write, you know, scholarly academic research. So, but yeah, that's the video. As I said before, I pretty much exposed Keita because I don't know what he's talking about when it comes to those 18th dynasty E1B1As. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know why he just made that up, right? We have the samples that are available from Dr. Yehagat. Where do we see E1B1A in the 18th dynasty? We don't. So I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe there's something. Maybe there's more mummies that are actually E1B1A. I'll be skeptical. I'll be honest. I'm open and honest about it. Maybe there are E1B1As, but where they're at, like, why weren't they published before? I don't see it. Right? I don't see it. I'm gonna wait for Gad and his lab, his crew, to publish publicly all the samples publicly, so everybody can have access to it, or they can gain access to it by asking the Egyptians to have access to their database, and they can use those samples for genetic research. So until that takes place, I say that these are all predicted haplogroups, right? That's all they are, predicted haplogroups. And they were all predicted using an outdated haplogroup predictor, using that's missing African haplogroups, according to Keita, right? Haplogroups A and B are African. So they're missing African haplogroups on this calculator predictor, Y-DNA haplogroup predictor. So I'm just saying, I don't think I have anything else. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching the whole thing, and I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment, and I'll do my best to get to you and be able to answer it fairly and professionally and academically and thorough as possible. Thank you so much. This has been Biblical DNA. I'm out.